인사 말씀 한 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
Can you greet the press who joined us today? Greet the press.
Hello, everybody. Very nice to be here in Seoul, Korea. It's a place I've always wanted to see and come visit, so I'm very excited to be here, especially to talk about Deadpool 2.
네. 자, 여러분들 질문 준비하시는 동안에 제가 지금 딱 한 개만 하도록 하겠습니다. 저희가 어제 저녁에 레드카펫을 먼저 진행한 걸로 알고 있습니다. 한국 팬들이 열광적으로 우리 라이언 레드로스 좋아했던 걸 기억하는데 레드카펫 하신 소감 여쭤봐도 될까요?
I know that you had your fair share of Korean-style fan meeting with passionate lovers. How was that at the red carpet?
I don't think I've ever experienced a welcome like I did last night here in Korea. I mean, even landing at the airport was one of the craziest things I've ever seen. Those people had to have gotten there at 3 or 4 in the morning, so that was pretty special. I immediately phoned my wife late as soon as I got home and told her that was just the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
그리고 제가 듣기로 어제 그 열광적인 화면을 보시고 한국으로 이사 오신다고 얘기를 들었는데 언제 이사 오실 건지.
And I heard that you were so impressed by Korean fans at the red carpet. You announced that you will move to Korea. So when are you moving?
I am. I'm shopping for a small apartment right now. As soon as this press conference is over, I'm looking at several small flats.
네. 기대됩니다. 정말 기대된다는 말씀을 드리겠습니다. 네. I look forward to you moving to you, okay?
Me too.
자, 이제부터 기자님들의 질문을 받는 시간 마련되어 있습니다. 질문 있으신 분은 손을 들어주시면 저희 진행요원이 마이크를 전달해 드리도록 하겠습니다. 질문하실 때는 매체명과 성함 말씀해 주시고요. 그리고 저희 앞에 계신 기자님들, 지금 사진 기자간담회 시작되니까 플래시를 꺼주시기를 제가 다시 한번 부탁 말씀드리도록 하겠습니다. 자, 첫 번째 질문은 뒤쪽으로 가도록 하겠습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 중앙에 곧 나왔던 기자인데요. 이번 데드풀 같은 경우에는 워낙에 성인 관객들을 아주 잘 공략한 전편을 이어서 소편으로 돌아오셨는데 소감이 궁금하고 그리고 각본에 어떤 방식으로 많이 참여하셨는지 궁금합니다.
I know that Deadpool 2 targets adults. So how do you feel about making a movie for adults? And you also co-wrote the film. And how much did you participate in terms of the writing?
I'll answer the first part of the question. Deadpool 2, yes, it is targeted towards adults. I mean, it's in the United States, it's an R-rated film. We've always felt that the best way to tell Deadpool's story in the most authentic way in relation to its fans is to keep it R-rated. That certainly doesn't stop, kids from going to see it and teenagers, but yeah, it is generally targeted to a slightly older audience, and I love that. I grew up watching comic book movies, and I love them, and I always wanted something that was a little bit something that could push the boundaries a little bit more, and those are the movies that I was attracted to. So it's one of the reasons I've been trying to get Deadpool made since 2004. And the second part of your question, in terms of co-writing the movie, Rhett Reese, Paul Warnick, and myself have been a team since about 2008, working on the first screenplay. I wrote on Deadpool 1 as well. I don't know specifically what sort of union rules apply that I had to have a writing credit specifically on this one, but I always write. It's just a part of my process. And I love it. Rhett, Paul, and I do it together. Half of the script for Deadpool 2 was written actually at my house in New York. So we're pretty close. I mean, we have to live together to create these things. So it's a nice partnership, for sure.
네, 자 이제 다음 질문 가도록 하겠습니다. 다음 질문은 어느 쪽으로 가나요? 네, 저 중앙 쪽에 있군요.
네, 안녕하세요.
네, 스무고개 성선혜 기자라고 하는데요. 일단 그 데드풀 전편이 워낙 전 세계에서 많은 사랑을 받은 히어로 영화인데 그래서 속편을 내시면서 부담감이 굉장히 크셨을 것 같아요. 앞서 질문 받으신 것처럼 배우로서뿐만이 아니라 각본과 약간 프로듀싱에도 참여를 하셨는데 전편과 차별화를 두기 위해서 어떤 점에 가장 신경을 쓰셨는지 여쭤보고 싶습니다.
The Deadpool 1 was a huge success all around the world, so burden on your shoulders when you started working on the second one. And you also started this film, you co-wrote and you produced this film. So can you tell us what kind of things did you focus on to differentiate the sequel to the first one?
That's a good question. You know, the burden was sort of lifted once Deadpool 1 was given a green light in which we were allowed to make the movie. So that was the biggest burden. In terms of the second film, we always wanted the second film to be a family film. And I don't mean that in the sense of like The Lion King or something. I mean a family film in the sense that Deadpool 2 is about family. And not in the same, much in the same way actually that Deadpool 1 is a love story masquerading as a comic book movie. Deadpool 2 is a family film masquerading as a comic book movie. And for Deadpool to work, it's a unique situation because the character is called the Merc with the Mouth. I mean, he's very mouthy, he's over the top, he's outrageous, he does all of these things. But in order to ground him for the audience, we always, we as the writers have to take everything away from him. And this is something that we did in Deadpool 1, it's something that we're doing in Deadpool 2, and it's why I'm excited going forward that we get to sort of look at other avenues to explore Deadpool, like an X-Force film, and ways for him to work within a team or a group or a family dynamic is something that's really fun for us. So, but Deadpool 2 we were already writing it while Deadpool 1 was being made. We didn't expect to actually get to shoot it, but we were writing it just because we love it. And I think that's one of the reasons that Deadpool, in general, Deadpool is connected with fans all over the world. I think specifically because the people that are making the movies are in love with the character and the franchise, and I think that authenticity translates to audiences. They see how much we love it and how much I love it, and playing Deadpool has really been the great professional privilege of my life.
네, 저도 데드풀 이렇게 팬입니다. 자, 여기 보신 분들도 아마 다 그러리라 생각이 됩니다. 자, 이제 다음 질문 받도록 하겠습니다. 이번에는 오른쪽에 있습니다.
안녕하세요. 정신력 배우 이신 작가입니다. 데드풀 수트를 입었을 때 느낌은 어떤지 궁금하고요. 수트를 입고 액션 연기를 하시기 어려웠을 것 같은데 가장 힘들었던 점이 궁금합니다.
How does it feel to put on the suit? And also, you do a lot of action in that suit. Wasn't it difficult for you to do all the actions?
Well, the suit, shooting in the suit, shooting action in the suit is pure hell. So, that suit is so tight I can taste my actual beating heart when I'm wearing it. It's something that you just kind of get used to, and the first couple of times I was in it, I sort of freaked out. I felt claustrophobic. I thought, I'm trapped in this mask, and in order to take the mask off, I actually need another person to help me take the mask off. I can't get it off myself. So, you have all these paranoid, scary thoughts that go through your head. What if I throw up in the mask? What if something terrible happens on set where I need to suddenly get the mask off and I can't? So, you have all those thoughts, but then after a while you just kind of settle into it. Usually the worst thing is a new suit. I like to use the suits that I've beaten up a bit. So when you put on a new suit, not unlike a motorcycle racing suit or something like that, it's really stiff and hard to move around at first, so I have to sort of work it in and break it in. Usually I'll run around and fall on the ground for about an hour or so until it finally works.
수트 말씀하시니까 생각이 나는데요. 제가 실제로 보니까 너무너무 미남이세요. 정말 잘생기셨는데 영화 중에는 항상 수트로 가리고 계시죠. 심지어 이제 그 화상 분장이 있는 상황이어서 이 잘생긴 모습을 영화 속에서는 잘 볼 수가 없어서 혹시 스스로 그게 좀 아쉽지는 않으신지
Well,
궁금합니다.
that reminds me of how handsome you are. Just looking at you in person, it's mesmerizing. You're so handsome. And it's such, it's a pity that the viewers don't get to see your beautiful face on big screen because you're either wearing the mask or your disfigured face on the big screen. So do you ever feel that that's a shame that you don't get to show your actual beautiful face on screen?
First off, I'm a hologram. I'm actually sitting comfortably in New York City right now. Second, I think it's essential that Deadpool be the ugliest man alive. And I think it's important because when you take something away, you focus more on the other attributes. And you know, at the end of the day, as obnoxious and over the top and vulgar as Deadpool is, he has a really good heart, you know, and these movies are generally anchored by emotion. And, you know, Deadpool is a character that is deeply flawed and, you know, and as I said, over the top and obnoxious, and some of that is mitigated by the fact that he's dealing with stuff, and you know, just to look at him makes him an underdog, and I think that that's important with a character like that. So, you know, he always needs something to fight against, you know, and he always needs a smaller objective. Deadpool is not the Avengers. Deadpool is not Captain America. Deadpool does not want to save the planet. He's just too sort of myopic and selfish for that. Deadpool wants to save a kid in this movie. He wants this one thing that he needs to do, and I like that his objectives are smaller. I like that, you know, he doesn't see so far into the future that he thinks about the big picture. He can only think about the moment because in his heart, he's a 15-year-old boy. He's impetuous and impatient, and these are virtues that I happen to love about him.
말씀을 듣고 보니 진짜 라이언 레놀즈 씨는 데드풀 그 자체다라는 생각이 듭니다. 자, 이제 다음 질문 받도록 하겠습니다. 다음 질문은 저 뒤쪽에 준비되어 있습니다. 네, 말씀 주세요.
뉴스만들도 김정욱입니다. 데드풀 같은 경우는 이제 마블 세계관에서 타노스하고 연적 관계로 좀 알려져 있습니다. 연적 관계라고 표현될지 모르겠는데, 타노스를 연기하는 배우가 조시 브롤린인데, 이번에는 또 데드풀하고 대결을 하는 케이블로 또다시 나오게 됐는데, 예고편에서도 좀 그 부분에 대해서 이제 데드풀 약간 놀리는 장면이라든가 그런 스크립트에 있었던 걸 저는 보여주지 않는데, 현장에서 두 배우가 그런 부분에 대해서 라운드로 재밌는 얘기가 굉장히 시도가 있는지 궁금합니다.
That's a long question. Are you my mother?
Well, my question is about Josh Brolin's character, Cable.
Yes.
Well, Josh Brolin is Thanos in MCU.
Never heard of it.
And Deadpool is supposed to be like nemesis with Thanos.
In the comics.
Yeah, in the comics.
Yes.
So, did you have any, funny discussion with Josh Brolin, or did you make fun of it while shooting? Can you share some anecdotes?
Yeah, Josh is one of those old school actors. He's a guy that, you could pluck him out of almost any era. And he carries with him a very heavy energy, and I love that about him because in our story, Deadpool is the child, and in essence, Cable is the adult. And even though these two guys are at odds, and even though Cable is, fast becoming Deadpool's arch nemesis, there's this sort of an adult-child type dynamic. The Thanos thing, I knew, obviously we all knew he was playing Thanos, but Josh was our first choice to play Cable, and he wasn't available. And we kept looking, and we investigated all kinds of amazing actors, and had a lot of amazing ideas and thoughts, and people that wanted to do it, but then our production schedule kept pushing, and then suddenly someone said, what if Josh is available now? So we tried him again, and he said, send over the script, and 2 hours later, he called me and said, I'm in. And that was just the best call I've ever gotten, because, casting Cable, not unlike Deadpool 1, the biggest challenge in that one was just finding the suit, just getting the suit right, the Deadpool suit. And I knew that if we could get that right, we would connect with a massive audience on every level. And for Deadpool 2, the biggest challenge is getting Cable right. And Josh is Cable. So yeah, and the Thanos thing, yeah, we actually, Deadpool, he breaks the fourth wall, he's very meta, he addresses the audience directly. He absolutely makes fun of Thanos in the movie, so yeah, how could he not? So, great opportunity.
두 분의 멋진 케미스트리는 데드풀 2 극장에서 꼭 확인해 주시기 바랍니다. 자, 다음 질문 가겠습니다. 다음 질문은 앞쪽에 준비되어 있군요. 네, 마이크 전달해 주시죠.
네, 안녕하세요. 저 플러그드 바바 이민영 에디터입니다. 마블 캐릭터로 데드풀만의 매력은 무엇이라고 생각하는지 답변 부탁드리겠습니다.
What makes Deadpool so attractive and charming?
Why is Deadpool so attractive and charming? Have you seen him? don't know if he's that attractive. I think, well, you know, I think people are attracted to somebody who's kind of comfortable in their own skin, who sort of integrate and accept aspects of themselves that others might not be appealing to other people. So I think what makes Deadpool attractive is his confidence. I mean, he's an incredibly confident person who's is always liable to say the worst possible thing he can think of, but at the same time, he's going to try to do his best to do the right thing. So to me, those attributes make Deadpool attractive. I think certainly his sense of humor is attractive. You know, anyone who has a sophisticated sense of humor or a base sense of humor, like Deadpool, is fairly attractive. So, yeah.
네, 고맙습니다. 자, 이제 다음 질문은 마이크가 또 어느 쪽에 가 있을까요? 제가 그러면 또 질문을 하나 드려봐도 될까요? 네, 제가 한번 드려보도록 하겠습니다. 제가 듣기로 이 데드풀이 영화화되기까지 굉장히 우여곡절이 많아서 11년이 걸렸다고 들었습니다. 그걸 다 기다리셨다고 들었어요. 근데 엄청난 성공을 했잖아요. 흥행도 그렇고. 그래서 소편이 나오기까지는 뭐 2년 만에 소편이 개봉을 하게 됐는데 그렇게 성공을 하고 소편을 만드십니까? 소감이 어떠신지요?
Well, while waiting for our journalists to come up with another question, my question is that after the long years, 11 years of waiting for the first one to be made and experience huge box office hit, and now you made the second one in just 2 years, how does that feel?
There's always a tremendous amount of pressure involved when you're making movies like this that have this level of expectation. But you know, at the same time, I sort of focus on how grateful I am that I got to work on these films. And you know, it's sometimes the long game in Hollywood can pay off. You know, usually when you have a project that's been stalled or stagnated for that many years, there's just generally no chance it's ever going to get made. But with Deadpool, it was a bit of a war of attrition and chipping away at the studio and doing everything we could to get them to pay attention to this property. You know, and thankfully they did at some point. They gave us just enough money to make a small sort of demo reel for the movie, some footage of the movie, an example and that sat on the shelf for 2 more years. They didn't do anything with that, so it got accidentally leaked onto the internet, and then Deadpool was born. The internet it was the fans really that got Deadpool made. It wasn't us. You know, we were sort of stewards for the franchise and the property, but the fans are the ones that demanded it and wanted it. So the studio, you know, sort of had to say yes.
알겠습니다. 자, 이 자리에는 말이죠. AP 기자님들도 함께하고 계시는데요. 저 뒤에 지금 바로 질문이 하나 있었던 것 같죠? 네, 그럼 질문 먼저 하나 받도록 하겠습니다.
네, 안녕하세요. 엑스포츠 뉴스 김유진이라고 하고요. 한국 팬들이 라이언 레이놀즈 씨를 보고 데드풀이 정말 현실 속에 등장한 것 같다는 말을 많이 하고 있는 것 같은데 그 데드풀과 실제 본인 성격의 싱크로율은 어느 정도라고 생각하시는지 궁금합니다.
Korean fans think that you are Deadpool. Deadpool is you and you are Deadpool. So in your opinion, how would you rate, like in terms of percentage, the match between you and the character?
I would say we're a pretty damn close match. You know, the difference between me and Deadpool, of course, is that I have a tiny little editor in my head that says, "Don't say that." Deadpool does not have that editor. He just says whatever comes to mind. So I think that's this kind of key difference. I could, you know, sit here and have a cordial and lovely conversation with all of you wonderful press people, and I don't think that Deadpool could do that at all. I think Deadpool would lose his mind or do something really horrendous or embarrassing. So, but that doesn't mean I don't want to do something horrendous and embarrassing. Believe me, I have the urge. It's a minute-by-minute showdown with my darker self.
라이언 레놀즈 씨가 없었다면 데드풀이 만들어질 수 없었을 것 같은 느낌인데 말입니다.
I'm sure without you, there would be no Deadpool, period.
I like to think so, but I mean, it's such a fun property that you can't help but sit around and wonder who else could play Deadpool? I wonder if there's someone else out there that could take it over or be the next Deadpool or something. That would be, for me, that would be fun to watch. It'd be fun to be a part of as well, but it would also be fun to watch.
혹시 그러면 다른 배우로서 데드풀 한번 캐스팅하신다면 누구를?
Who is in that list? in your head?
Who is on that list? I can't think of somebody right now. You know, I really don't know. Deadpool is so hyper specific that, you know, somebody who took it over would need to completely reinvent it. They would need to do something so far and away from whatever I did with the character that they would need to kind of reinvent it for their own. I would say the same goes for Wolverine. You know, for Logan, that character was so perfectly defined by Hugh Jackman and his work over the many years that he played that character. Right now, I can't imagine another human being ever stepping into that role again, and I actually sort of feel sorry for the person who has to one day, because those are big, big, big claws to fill. So.
네, 데드풀은 라이언 레놀즈만 하는 걸로 그렇게 정리하겠습니다. 지금 이 자리에는 AP 기자분들도 계십니다. 왜냐면은 우리나라에서 최초 개봉인데 또 아시아는 처음 우리나라 오셨기 때문에요. 그래서 AP 기자분들의 질문도 받아볼까 하는데요. 네.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi.
You said it was physically challenging to be in the suit, so I'd like to ask you, what was the physical preparation for Deadpool compared to your other action characters? And did you go on a specific diet or a specific workout to be able to look that good in that red suit?
Why, thanks. Well, you know, we all go through a ton of physical preparation. That's not so much an aesthetic thing as it is just so nobody gets hurt. It's challenging and demanding. Every day you're being thrown off of, you know, cars and buildings and all kinds of stuff. So, and particularly with Dave Leitch, who's, I think, a genius in the action genre, who's our director on Deadpool 2, you know, he likes to do so much of his work in camera, as opposed to CGI or using digi-doubles or those sorts of tricks that oftentimes comic book movies rely on to show large-scale action. So a lot of things we had to get out there and do it ourselves. I, of course, have an amazing stunt person who, Jackson Spadell is his name, he's amazing, and he does incredible work. And I wouldn't be standing here or sitting here or doing anything without him, because I would be, you know, very, very crippled. But you know, a lot of us work with Don Saladino, who's a guy in New York who's really great with strength training and conditioning and that kind of stuff. So for the Deadpool suit in particular, it's sort of like carrying, even though the suit isn't heavy, it's sort of like carrying around 40 or 50 pounds, just because your range of motion is slower and more limited, so you have to get really fast and really strong to kind of move at a speed that you need to move. So, yeah. Well.
네, 알겠습니다. 받는 김에 AP 기자분 질문 하나 더 받을까요? 네.
Hey Ryan.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good. I can
We've
totally
met a bunch of times.
Yeah. I can totally play the next Deadpool, by the way.
Done.
I can do it. She ready?
There's actually a list outside. You just gotta put your name on it.
I'll just fill it out.
Yeah.
I want to say something first. You talked about family film, right? I actually, Deadpool 1 was the first movie I watched with my family as an R-rated film.
Wow, cool.
So I think R-rated films can be family films as well, because you grow up with your family and then you pass 18.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, if Deadpool himself could write a review for Deadpool 2, what would he say?
I think he'd probably do the entire thing in emoji. Just the whole thing with the emoji. And it would be very hard to decipher what the hell he's talking about, but it would be a lot of that, I think. Yeah.
Thank you, Ray.
Yeah.
네, 자 이번에는 한국 기자님 질문 있을까요? 있으시면 제가 전달해드리도록 하겠습니다.
KBS 미디어 박찬희 기자입니다. 아까 대답 중에 가족 영화로 만들고 싶다고 한 게 조금 충격적이어가지고 그 속편 계획을 좀 미리 말씀해 주시면 고맙겠습니다. 3편은 어떤 식으로 나가는 건지, 또 요즘 유행이 슈퍼히어로끼리 뭉쳐서 노는 건데 어떤 영화에 출연 누구랑 어떤 슈퍼히어로와 짝을 이루어가지고 어벤져스 같은 거 만들고 싶은지 그런 거 좀 얘기해 주시기 바랍니다.
I'm quite shocked that Deadpool 2 is going to be a family film. I can't process that. So can you just give us a hint on what kind of Deadpool 3 would look like? So first film was about the love story, second one was family. Now what's next? That's the first question. And the second question is the trend in film industry is bunching together superheroes and make like films like Avengers.
Yeah.
And if you were to make a film like that, who would be your teammate?
Okay, I can answer this on several levels. yes, Deadpool 2 is a family film. It centers around family. For a Deadpool 3, you know, it's an odd thing to say, but I don't think there will be a Deadpool 3. I think going forward it would be an X-Force movie, which would be his team, so to speak, except the X-Force is much different than, say, Avengers. X-Force is generally made up of a bunch of people who are very morally flexible. They're guys that do the work that the X-Men wouldn't or couldn't do. So, you know, you're dealing with this kind of ragtag group of men and women who, you know, don't have the strong moral compass that, say, the Avengers do or X-Men. Beyond that, I know it's a pipe dream that would probably never come true, but I'd love to see a Deadpool Logan movie. I'd like to see a Wolvie-Pool movie, if I may. That would be fun. But Hugh Jackman is apparently retired, despite the fact that I've been protesting almost hourly.
왠지 그 울버린과 데드풀이 함께 나와도 굉장히 재밌을 것 같다는 그런 생각이 듭니다. 한국에 오셨으니까 아무래도 혹시 뭐 한국 영화 감독이나 뭐 배우분들 아시는 분이 있는지 뭐 관심 있는 영화 있으셨는지 여쭤보고 싶네요.
Well, now that you're in Korea, do you have any favorite Korean films or directors?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, in the United States, I mean, and well, I'm from Canada, but in Canada and the United States, Old Boy is some stuff of legend, obviously, and I know that that's everybody here's probably rolling their eyes saying that's the obvious answer. But you know, that movie and its brutality and the way it sort of, how raw it was and how inventive it was, really speaks to me because as someone who was a part of Deadpool 1, I know that we had to do so much with so little, and it's obvious that the filmmaker and that team did exactly that. They made an entire universe out of, you know, a premise that was not gigantic. So that's definitely one that I take some inspiration from. And who doesn't love a walk to remember? Really.
리멤버는 제목이 우리나라 제목이
What?
어떻게 보시면 네.
Walk to Remember.
I'm getting the title wrong, I'm sure, because they
Walk to
translated it.
Remember.
I think I might have messed that one up.
네, 저희가 나중에 찾는 대로 여러분들께 꼭 알려드리도록 하겠습니다. 왜냐하면 데드풀이 좋아하는 영화이기 때문에 궁금합니다. 자, 다음 질문 받도록 하겠습니다. 다음 질문 중앙 쪽에 준비되어 있습니다.
네, 서울경제스타 한혜선입니다. 영화 속편도 잘 봤었는데요. 이 데드풀의 성격이 아무래도 좀 짠내나는 캐릭터이면서 코믹한 부분이 특징이잖아요. 네, 저번에도 그렇고 이번에도 적은 제작비로 제작을 했다고 알고 있는데 그로 인해 좀 있었던 에피소드, 웃지 못할 에피소드 같은 거 있으면 좀 알려주세요.
I saw the highlights and loved it. And I love Deadpool because he's kind of sad character but comical. He's like a little bit of everything. And I know that the budget that you were given for the second film was not huge either this time. So can you share some funny anecdotes just because of the budget?
Oh, well, you know, this is a little bit of a secret, but I actually play more than one character in the movie. That's because of our budget. But that's kind of an Easter egg. I know in Deadpool 1, for instance, you know, we were about 6 weeks from shooting, and the studio took about $7 million away from our budget. And I don't blame them because it was an untested property and that sort of thing. But there's a sequence in Deadpool 1 where it's called 12 Bullets, where Deadpool has to go up against a whole ton of guys, a whole ton of these bad guys, and he only has 12 bullets to use. And that is an example of necessity being the mother of invention, and I love that. You know, the more sort of limited we are with the resources we have when making these films, the more inventive you have to be, and the more you have to rely on character as opposed to scale and scope and spectacle. So in Deadpool movies in general, the spectacle is the character stuff. It's the humor, it's the heart, it's all of those things. The action is kind of secondary to that, although very important. But yeah, the second film certainly doesn't have the budget of what you would see in these Marvel movies and that sort of stuff, but we were happy to have a little bit more to work with because it is a summer film and you want to give a lot more scale and scope, and we were able to do that, but not particularly comfortably, which is a good thing.
그래서 데드풀이 이렇게 총알도 굉장히 이렇게 딱 아껴서 쓰는 이런 장면은 굉장히 인상적이었다는 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다. 자, 이제 다음 질문은 어디로 갈까요? 네, 바로 가운데 기자님 계시네요.
네, 한국스포츠경제 양준 기자입니다. 저는 최근에 마블 영화 어벤져스가 굉장히 흥행을 하고 있는데 한국 내에서 또 데드풀 1도 되게 한국에서 잘 됐잖아요. 그래서 이번 데드풀 2에 대한 그런 흥행에 대한 기대가 좀 남다를 것 같은데 어떠신지 답변 부탁드립니다.
Deadpool was a huge success in Korea, and right now the superhero movies are in trend. Like Avengers is doing so well in Korea right now. So with Deadpool 2, do you have any high expectation in terms of box office in Korea?
Absolutely. I think, certainly evidenced by last night that Deadpool fans are very, very strong in Korea. So, I mean, that was a thrill for me to see both personally and professionally. And also Deadpool offers something that I think no other superhero can. He sort of occupies space that no other comic book movie can occupy. So for me, it's not really a concern because I feel like what they're going to go see with Deadpool, they're going to go see something that is completely different from the Avengers or really any other superhero movie. And Deadpool is made in every single moment, every single frame for the fans. So the character directly addresses the fans in the movie. So these are things that just nobody else can do or does do. So for us, I think it's going to be very successful in Korea, and I think. But what's more important to me is I think Korean fans are going to really love Deadpool 2, and I think they're really going to love it this year from the screens.
요즘 한국에서는 좀 유행이 배우들이 얼마 이상 관객이 되면 공약을 하는 그런 것들이 있어요. 그래서 데드풀 2가 데드풀 1의 관객수를 넘으면 혹시 라이언 레놀즈 씨도 다시 오겠다거나 아니면 SNS에 한국 팬들을 위한 서비스를 해주시겠다거나 그런 거 해주실 수 있는지 좀 어려운 질문인가요?
Well, the trend in Korea is that when the actors does this kind of press conference for their films, they say, I pledge to do something outrageous or special when my movie makes a certain amount of money in box office. So if Deadpool 2 is to exceed Deadpool 1 in terms of box office, what kind of pledge can you make? Like, if the pledge can be a really simple one, like I will come back to Korea, or say, I will post up a really funny and outrageous posting on my SNS.
Well, I'll definitely come back to Korea. I agree with you. What is the drink called? Soju?
Sorry?
Is the drink in Korea?
Soju.
Soju. Am I allowed to just drink a whole bottle of soju on camera? Is that outrageous? Would that kill me? I don't think so, right? No. Okay, good. Deadpool 2 kills it in Korea. I'll drink a whole bottle of that on camera.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh God, what am I doing? This is just a dumb pledge. See? Deadpool took over. The editor failed me.
한국 팬들이 열심히 응원하면서 극장으로 달려갈 것 같은 기분이 듭니다.
Now that will drive the fans go see the movie just so that they will get to see you drunk.
They will see me, yes, stumble right over. I'll fall on something interesting too. Hopefully not one of my children.
자, 아쉽지만 마지막 질문 하나만 더 받도록 하겠습니다. 저 뒤쪽으로 가겠습니다.
안녕하세요. 스타데일리 뉴스 김재니 기자입니다. 도미노 역을 연기하신 제지비치 씨를 직접 오디션했다고 말씀하셨는데 어떤 이유에서 캐스팅하게 되셨는지 이유 말씀해 주시면 감사하겠습니다.
You were at the audition and you casted Domino's character, Zazie Beetz. Why did you select her?
We saw, I think, about 100 people for that role. And we were not looking for anything in particular. We didn't care how old they were, how young they were. We were just looking for our domino. And Zazie Beetz came in and gave a reading that was just unbelievable. And for me, I mean, when I'm reading with a lot of these people, I do a lot of improvising. I kind of mess around. I sort of, making stuff up and just joking around. And Zazie, was so much better than I was in this audition room. and that blew everybody away. I mean, I remember halfway through the first page of her dialogue, I just looked over at David Leitch, our director, and I could see him just nodding his head, and so that was it. I mean, it was, we found our domino at last. So that was the main reason that we hired her, and then looking back, having, we really just finished this movie, I mean, 3-4 days ago. The movie was, the editing and everything had finally been totally shut down, and we'd finally completed the film. Just looking back on it, I can't think of anybody else. I mean, her mark on the movie is so indelible that when I look back, I can't imagine another person ever playing the role of Domino. So I think fans are just going to flip out for her. She's one of the most exciting characters in the movie. She has one of the most unique powers in the movie, which Deadpool really just makes a ton of fun of. And I'm really excited for people to see Domino and unleash her on the world.
네, 알겠습니다. 아쉽지만 이제 마지막 인사를 들어야 될 시간이 됐네요. 오늘 함께 하신 소감과 함께 한국 팬들에게 꼭 하시고 싶은 말씀 부탁드리겠습니다.
We're sorry to let you go, but this is going to be your chance to just last few words to tell the press as well as the fans your message to the Deadpool.
Listen, I'm so thrilled to get to spend this time in Korea. I wanted to come here forever. I wanted to particularly come to Seoul. I wanted to come here for the first movie so badly. So I'm so glad that we finally got to make it here this time. And the day that I had yesterday in this city, I'll never forget for as long as I live. I'm so excited to be here. I couldn't believe the fan reception in that crowd last night. I mean, that was something that I'll take with me to my grave, which will hopefully be many, many years down the road here somewhere in Seoul, Korea, because again, I'll be living here. So thank you guys. Thank you very much for everything. I really appreciate it.
아파트 찾고 계시다고 하셨는데 좋은 아파트 찾으시기 바랍니다.
Hope you can find a fine flat in Seoul.
Yes. I'm not looking for anything too fancy, but I'm going to have a look around, so we'll see. There's a lot of fancy places around here.
네, 고맙습니다. 지금까지 라이언 레놀즈 씨와 함께했습니다. 오늘 함께해 주셔서 고맙고요. 다음에 또 꼭 뵐 수 있길 바라겠습니다. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you guys.